welcome everyone to Agile Talks. In this Agile Talks series, we'll discuss all things about Agile and learn from the experience of the industry experts and their journey of adopting Agile practices within their organizations. So for this first episode, I have the pleasure to introduce our first expert, Mr. Johnwee. So he's a strong advocate in digital technologies and has more than 20 years of experience leading IT initiatives. And he has also trained many professionals and organizations in adopting Agile. So John, first of all, thank you so much for taking your time to join me today.
Thanks, Jeremy, for having me on this quick chat. I understand that you had quite a few questions. Wanted to appreciate what Agile is and how it is, right? So I'll be happy to spare some time to actually talk a little bit more on that.
Okay, thanks, John. Nice. So let me first start with the first question first, John. It's a simple question, but it's
Sure.
something
Yes,
that
please.
I hear a lot from our clients and also other companies. Can you help to explain to us, what is Scrum?
What is
Scrum?
Scrum? Good that you asked that question because a lot of people get a little bit confused with Scrum and Agile. Scrum is actually a lightweight version of Agile. So it's actually a very, very miniature, very lightweight, what we call an Agile framework that a lot of people use in applying, or should I say, adopting Agile. Now, typically in Scrum, people will use it for a software development kind of a scenario, but you could also perhaps do it for a project. You can also do it for your day-to-day work as well. So Scrum is actually a very lightweight one. There are other ones a little bit more structured, or should I say, tailored for the bigger projects that you may have, right? So the other ones that I would recommend people to look at is either SAFe, S-A-F, with a small e, or the one that we use, which is the DSDM, Dynamic System Development Methodology for Agile. So those kind of interpretation, or should I say, variation of Agile is slightly more complex than Scrum. So the rituals are similar, but the documentations, the control are slightly different in each of the what we call adaptation, or should I say implementation of Agile itself. So I just want to call that out. There's a slight difference in that sense.
Yeah, but John, because just now you did mention that Scrum, right, is something that is, those that are in the IT or software industry would know more about Scrum. But do you also see a lot of departments or organizations that are not from the IT or software industry actually practice Scrum? Do you see that a lot? Or
yes, and recently I should say in the last 5 years or so, or 6 years or so, since I got started, we are actually, or I'm seeing actually a lot of different types of organization started to have some curiosity, I should say, or started to ask their team to actually adopt what we call Scrum itself. Now, it's quite surprising because coming from a software development kind of a framework, right? A lot of different industries like, hey, hang on, what is this Scrum? What is this Agile? It's actually a mindset. Now, the tools, the rituals that are prescribed in Scrum actually help you to actually drive for 3 things in what we call Scrum, right? So let me just call that out very quickly. First thing is to be very disciplined on time. Second is to focus on the cost that we incur or actually spend. Thirdly is the relentless pursuit of quality itself. So when you say you do Scrum, you are actually embodying these 3 key qualities focus. So that's why a lot of, I should say, companies, right, who are not in software development, when they look at it, they say, wow, this is fantastic, Jeremy. I think we should get our team to focus on those 3 things, like I mentioned. The time, we have to be super disciplined on it. Secondly, the cost, you need to make sure that you take care of every single dollar and cents that we spend. And thirdly, most importantly, what we all care about is the quality of the product or even the service that we render to our customer.
Okay. And John, what are the typical, practices or events that are involved in Scrum? Can you just elaborate more?
Right. Personally, I love the one that we use. We call it the Kanban board. or the team board, right? It's just a board with basically, I mean, it can be as simple as 3 columns. I've seen many different variation of the Kanban board. Now, the one that I would recommend people to start off with is to have 3 columns. So on the leftmost column, you would perhaps list out all your to-do lists, right? All your task lists that you need to do. Now, of course, that will be just the first list. Now, as you go through and review that on your daily stand-up, that's the ritual itself. So every morning, set aside perhaps 15 minutes to have a quick review, either with your team or yourself, to look at, okay, I have this to-do list on my leftmost column. Which one am I prioritizing? Which one are we taking in as a work that I will commit to do for today? So assuming, say, I've picked up or selected one of the key tasks, I will have a sticky note, which I've actually listed on the left-hand corner. I will lift that and put it into the middle column of the Kanban board, and I'll put my name to it and say, okay, John is now assigned or committed to deliver this, right? So that's the second column. Now, if I've completed it the next day, I will remove, or should I say, relocate that yellow sticky note to the rightmost corner, which is the done or the completed column itself. So this 3 column, as a Kanban board, first and foremost, provides visibility to the rest of the team, who is doing what. More importantly, it also needs to make sure that we are, like I said, very disciplined on time, folks, because if I mention that I'm going to do 2 items, I will need to make sure I deliver those 2 items. More importantly, at the end of the day, we need to ensure quality as well. So everybody is aware of that. So that daily tracking ritual with the stand-up meeting, typically it's something that will encourage people to get started with, because that will get you a flavor, should I say, appreciation, the 3 things that we talk about in Scrum, which is, like I said, your focus on the discipline on time that you spend, the money, which is the cost, which is, of course, if you're going to do some work, right, it will involve certain costs, right? And more importantly, let's focus on the quality, which we need to deliver to our end customer.
Yeah. So I think that is something that you mentioned, that Kanban board is something that we have to do on a daily basis, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So some people also ask me and say, John, seriously, every day? I said, yeah. If you do it every day, right? Actually, like I said, it's only spend 15 minutes, and you could actually run through the ritual to actually get it done. Now, of course, there are also some leaders who ask me and say, John, so do you do a report later on? Actually, you don't have to. If you make the Kanban board, let's say if it's a digital version, right, available to the key stakeholders, they could perhaps have a look at it themselves. You know, there's actually not a hard requirement to do up another progress report per se, because that Kanban board is a snapshot of what the team is focusing on, where the progresses are, who has completed what in a snapshot per se. Now, of course, like I said, as we do that every day, right? It will progress.
Then John, I have one question. So would you
Please.
say that it's something that we have to do it every day, or you think that, let's say someone asks, can we do it on a weekly basis, or what is
probably not recommended. I mean, I have seen people doing it weekly. Now, unfortunately, because the thing is, in the daily ritual, there are also 3 questions that we need to actually share with our fellow team members in Scrum, right? The first question is, what have I done? Right, which is very, very easy to answer, right? So if yesterday I was so-called committed to do one specific task, say, to do up a report printing, right? So I will be able to talk a little bit more on that. Second question that I need to answer is basically about, what am I planning to do today? What do I plan to commit to deliver today? Okay. The most important thing is actually the third question, which is, do I have any challenges, or do I need any help? This is where I need to be very upfront with my fellow team member, which is embodying one of the key principles of Scrum, that is having trust, right, among each other, right? To say that, hey, if I'm having a challenge on, say, cybersecurity on the database encryption, then it is rightfully, I need to actually call that out, right? Because if I keep it as a secret, or I sweep it under the carpet, right, I would not be able to deliver that task. So I will encourage people to be truthful, to trust each other, and say, hey, seriously, Jeremy, I think I need a little bit of help. I'm not very familiar with the database security encryption, perhaps. Anybody who could perhaps assist me or help me to appreciate or understand this so I can actually complete this task itself. Now, calling out itself, like I said, embodying the agile principle, or should I say the Scrum principle of trust, I think that's key. That's absolutely key.
So I think, like you mentioned, like if you do it on a daily basis, it's also sort of like, encouraging the teammates to have more communication within each other, right? Because like,
by the way, communication is also a key principle if you have not been aware of that, right? So in Scrum, people, or should I say the team members, needs to stay in constant communication. Again, it's not to say that they all talk and no work, but it's just to ensure that everybody is aware what each other is focusing on. And if they need help, they need to contribute and step in as a team, right? So it's not to say that, you have a 8 hours meeting or discussion. No, it's more to ensure that there is a forum, there is a channel for people to be kept informed, share with each other what the progresses are. That's why the daily thing, right? Like I said, I would strongly encourage it to be done instead of like twice a week or even once a week kind of thing. Because seriously, at the rate things are moving, right? I think you will agree, right, Jeremy? Then anything can happen, right?
So John, so let's take a step back now, because I have another question that I would like to ask you. Can you also share with us, like, when did you learn about Agile, or how did you learn about Agile? Because, obviously from your journey of learning about Agile and until, today you're, giving classes about Agile. So can you just share a bit with us, and how do we go about this? How do we learn more about Agile and things like that?
Right. I started in my previous company when the leadership team decided to say that we need to learn about Agile. So we started off with attending, say, an awareness class, right? So after that, then they said, okay, guys, let's try and implement. Of course, we were not successful by just attending the awareness class, right? Then I told myself, I said, hang on, I think awareness class may be just, the rudimentary, or should I say the primary foundation itself, right? Perhaps I need to attend a training course. So I would encourage people to not just go for the awareness class, actually attend a formalized training. That is actually key now. The reason that I encourage the people attend a formalized training is to appreciate the framework that your organization have selected that you need to apply in your daily work. Now, in my previous organization, instead of all the other, like I said, that you have like DSDM, you have SAFe, you have Lean, you have Extreme Programming, even Scrum, right? They have chosen Scrum. So I actually needed to attend a training, learn a little bit more of the details of Scrum, right? That's when I get to realize, whoa, this Scrum is actually, or should I say Agile, right? It's actually a bigger thing itself, right? Now, after the training, of course, now, we were very fortunate that we were restructured in a way to work in a virtual Scrum team. So we were given certain tasks, certain projects, certain digital products to develop. Now, once we actually get into that, of course, we fumble a bit. We were also very fortunate. We had a coach, a DSDM coach, or should I say a Scrum Master, that was made available to us, that we can actually learn from him to say that how could we do this. Now, eventually, of course, I was being asked to lead the team as a Scrum Master. That's where I need to be very, very clear, learn the ins and outs of how Scrum is being applied in the various scenario, right? Because I will get questions from different team members. Shouldn't we do Observe4 for this? Why are we doing Scrum? Those kind of things. So after a while, running a few rounds of using Scrum itself, I get the hang of it. You have to learn the tools as well, right? There's quite a few tools inside there, like the burn down chat. What is the velocity of the team? How do you even conduct a retrospective meeting? Those kind of things, right? How do you even provide or do up the documentation? Because our internal qualiters or the QC guys were curious to say, John, You sure you have documentation? I say, yeah, we've got it. We've got it. Let me share with you how we do it in Scrum, where it is, and right, then you can actually be rest assured that, those details are there. Yeah, it was quite I guess, a interesting journey. Long story short, seriously, awareness may not be sufficient. You need to actually go and attain a full-fledged training on the framework of Agile that your company have selected, be it Scrum, be it SDM or SAFe, whichever that may be, to really appreciate it. Now, after that, you really need to actually do it. That's the only way that you could perhaps learn that. Now, of course, if you have access to a coach like myself, I could perhaps give you a little bit more specifically when you have a scenario or a specific technical questions like, okay, John, how do you do this? How do I measure the burn down check? Why is our velocity of a team this way, right? How do we even do validation? How do we prioritize those blocks that we have with the customer? Yeah. So it's quite I should say, an intriguing part in that sense.
I see. So if I can summarize your whole journey, you started off with more of like awareness training first, and then because of that, and you know that your company is actually going towards the Scrum, adopting the Scrum framework, which is why you actually took up the like a training program as well for Scrum.
Yes.
And then in the meantime, you also have the privilege of having like a agile coach in your team.
Yes, we were very lucky actually. I must say, was very lucky to somebody that I can reach out, or call out for help. Now, in this case, if anybody is interested, they can definitely contact me, and then we'll be happy to take it offline to look at specifically what was the part that you need to apply Scrum. Why does it apply? What are the techniques that we could perhaps embody or use in the sense? Yeah.
Okay. And John, so I have probably the last question that I have for you today. Okay, because I'm sure that now as you're teaching Agile, teaching about Scrum, right? You would also have heard of like a lot of obstacles that your participants would share with you, right? Can you please share with us, some of the common obstacles that you see a lot of them are facing, and probably how can we, overcome those obstacles?
I think two of the key differences, or should I say the two common ones that always pop up in my dialogue or discussion with people who are new to Agile, Scrum, or DSDM in that sense, right? I think a lot of people do not understand the importance of doing Scrum. Okay, so I think that's a misconception. A lot of people think that, okay, it's just a buzzword. They don't really know how to actually do it, and they don't appreciate I think, remember we spoke about the daily ritual, the Kanban board itself, right? The tracking, the sharing, and all that stuff, right? There was a lot of misconception in that sense. So that will be the first thing that I would like to call out, right?
Yeah. Because if you don't understand, they won't appreciate it, and the buy-in also will be a problem, right? Because
absolutely, I have team members, or should I say participants, that say, "Hey, John, isn't that a waste of time?" Then I said, "Okay, so how do you provide the updates to your stakeholders?" "Oh, I actually do a report." I said, "Okay, fantastic. So how much time do you spend?" Normally on average about 45 minutes to an hour." I said, "Wow, if you are doing stand-up so-called meeting with the Kanban board, right? That would have taken a shorter time, 15 minutes. And then I said, "Oh, didn't realize that." I said, "Yeah, seriously. If you compare, right? If I need to write a progress report and update report, will take about what, on average 30 minutes to 45 minutes, which is pretty standard, right? Versus if we do a stand-up meeting and then we update the Kanban board and we share that with the stakeholders, right? They can clearly see who is working on what has been completed, right? What is still in the backlog, right? Hey, makes more sense. So that's why I said a lot of people have this misconception of all these things, right? That would be the first one I call. The second thing I want to call out, this is also to some of the leaders of the organization who wants to adopt Scrum, right? Is that this kind of role, or be it a product manager, be it a Scrum Master, be it a developer role, right? These are full-time roles. I need to call it out again. These are full-time roles. You cannot have a person working on a Scrum project and at the same time still doing his or her day-to-day job. right? This is the part whereby a lot of people say, hey, Scrum didn't work for me. Scrum has failed me. Why? Because if you come to a priority, right, it's going to be quite a struggle. Do I do my day job? Do I do the Scrum project jobs? Right. So this is the part I see that a lot of leaders out there, or a lot of leadership team members, right, perhaps has not wrapped around the idea that you need to really dedicate two different groups. One group is to keep the lights on. The other group is to really drive with the Scrum methodology itself to actually do it the Scrum way. And they have to be full-time. They have to be dedicated, right? You cannot do like 50-50 because seriously, it will impact the delivery of the teams, right? So these are the two things that I would like to call out typically when we engage in a dialogue with some of the participants, right? They say, hey, John, I'm struggling with this, or my bosses don't understand this, or even my team members don't even appreciate the reason why we need to do this.
Okay. So, John, I'd like to thank you so much because we're almost time ready.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, so I hope I can invite you again, John, for probably the next session.
Absolutely. I think I'm like I said, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to share with you some of these common pitfalls, right, or this myth, or I said misunderstanding when we say we want to do Scrum, right, and also to share a little bit on my journey. Like I said, the other important thing I think everybody needs to remember, Jeremy, is that when you start on the journey of using Scrum, there is no destination. It's a journey itself. So as long as you continue to embody, to adopt this, right, it will be a long journey to go. So you need to keep the faith. Along the way, there's going to be speed bump, there's going to be potholes and all that, right? How you look at Scrum, you know, hey, hang on, why is it happening this way or that way? Yeah, I hope to share more in our next session. But definitely, I hope I've also dispel some of the myths that people have on Scrum as well.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much, John, once again.
No problem. So, thank you for having me as well.
So for the listeners, if you have any questions, you know, with whatever that we've discussed today, or any other questions you have about Agile or Scrum that we have not discussed today, feel free to reach out to us, either John or myself or the Cybian team. Yeah.
Yep.
So I hope
put a link at the video at the comment section, right? We'll put a link at the comment section. Yeah, and also I think if anybody would have any specific area of Agile or Scrum that they would like us to perhaps share a little bit more, yep, we'll be happy to take that on in the next so-called session as well, or the future session that will be coming. Okay?
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, John. See you again.
Thanks, Jeremy, for having me. This is a great session to share the plots and then the learnings of Scrum as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. See you.
Bye-bye.